Well, hello. Welcome to Your Voice New York Intro to Public Speaking. Step into the spotlight. Tonight, we're going to be learning the fundamentals in terms of the beginning stages of public speaking. For those of you out there in the audience, thank you so much for joining. Thank you for being here. Tonight's going to be a great night. If you're here to learn, then strap in, grab a pen, paper, pencil, because we're in for a ride. So who's ready? Woo! With that said, it is now 6:33. We're gonna get this started. I'm gonna start sharing my screen in just a moment and we can just begin. Perfect. Now, before we begin, can everybody, just a quick check, can everybody see my screen?
Yes.
Perfect. All right. Like I said, this is Intro to Public Speaking. Step into the spotlight. Woo! And just a quick note with who I am Ray Martez, founder of Your Voice New York, and I'm here to help you find your voice online and offline. With my experience and expertise of online marketing and my offline experience of public speaking, I'm here to teach you everything you need to know about public speaking. Before we begin, just a quick note of what is Your Voice New York. Your Voice New York is a public speaking platform, a stage, if you may ask, for anybody that's looking to learn how to be better public speakers and for those that want to be heard. Your Voice New York can be found at yourvoicenewyork.com, and there you can find several articles, workshops, as well as texts for more advanced instrumental work for public speaking. And before we do get started, I'd like to ask you all a question. Who is your favorite speaker? When you think about a speaker or a good public speaker, who is the first person that comes to mind? Is it Obama? Is it Tony Robbins? Is it Bill Clinton? Oh, so Barack Obama. Barack Obama is very unfamiliar to me, but I do know who Barack Obama is. Barack Obama is a very poised speaker. He tends to pause every single time he talks, and it may be slow pace, and that's just his style of speaking. When you think about public speaking, you want to emulate a person or a speaker, which is the best way of understanding the way you speak. As far as speaking like Barack Obama, I would assume that he speaks hillbilly-ish, and if that's what you're going for, then that's okay too. Okay, let's get started. And this is what we're going to cover, and this is who it's for. We're going to cover audience content and delivery today, which is who are they, what you say, and how you say it. Keep in mind that this is an intro workshop, so we're going to be doing fundamental work and foundational work of public speaking from a bird's eye view. There will be time at the end for Q&A, but feel free to ask me a question if you really need to during the presentation. This being an intro workshop, though, however, for you seasoned speakers out there, you can also get a few takeaways from this, as it does serve as a refresher for myself as well. And with that said, let's begin. A little bit of, but I like to always start with a little story, a small story about my humble beginnings. My name is Ray Martez. I was born in Washington Heights to a Dominican immigrants. And as a kid, I was very shy. And rather than going outside, playing basketball, baseball, or doing any sort of team activity or sports, let alone being on the stage and speaking in public, I was at home either playing video games or practicing my violin. This image here clearly represents the type of kid I was. The only thing missing was the glasses. Now, that said, I would like to let everybody know that public speaking isn't something that comes natural to people. When you're born, you're not there's no natural speaker. You become a better speaker. And I love this quote by Mark Twain, who famously said, there are two types of speakers, those who are nervous and those that are liars. I wholeheartedly believe in this quote because nervousness is something within. It's part of our fight or flight response. It's a neurological reaction to a danger or a situation that makes us feel uncomfortable. With speakers, whether they're starting their first speech or have given their 100th or 10th speech, every single speaker at some point gets nervous. And if those speakers tell you that they're not, then they're probably lying. This is one of the techniques that I like to use when I'm preparing myself for the stage. I ask myself, am I in danger? Is there any danger to what I'm doing at the current moment? Should I be afraid of what's about to happen? Is there any physical harm coming to me? These are the type of questions I think about when I go up on stage. If there is no real danger and the danger only comes within your head, then is it really a danger? Understandably, rhetorically, no. Finding the root of your nervousness or finding the fear of your nervousness can help you better understand and ultimately help you better understand yourself and the fear of when you're going up on stage. Every fear and every limiting belief that people have is unique to them. And I'm not going to dive too deep into fears of public speaking in this presentation, but I'll leave you with a takeaway. Fear comes within, and fear is usually based, when it comes to public speaking, of judgment. Don't be afraid of judgment. Don't be afraid of what's going to happen or the what ifs. Be confident in yourself and your ability to perform. Audience, or who are they? Part of public speaking is understanding your audience. If you don't understand your audience, then you're not really focusing on what's important here. At the end of the day, public speaking is about the people you're presenting to and not yourself. That said, let's discuss some of the things. I want you all here to know, what are some of the things that you want to know about your audience before a speech or a presentation?
What's important to them?
Perfect. So one of the things that came up is what's important to them. There are a variety of factors that I'll go into when it comes to audiences, but as Rachel mentioned, what's important to them is the pinnacle factor of capturing their attention. If you would like an audience to pay attention to you, you have to understand that this is a trade-off. You want to understand, what is the audience looking to get out of you? And what can you deliver to the audience that will bring them maximum benefits? You want to remember that you want to leave your audience better than they were before. You want to leave them with an experience. You want to leave them with something attainable, something they can grasp. And with that said, there are more things that you need to take account when it comes to understanding your audience. And those things are, one, who is your audience? Is it an individual or a group? What are the demographics of your audience and what are their values? With understanding your audience, there are two key factors: your demographics and your psychographics. Your demographics are those people that, when you look at a census, they're on paper who they are, what age groups they belong to, what household income they have, what kind of jobs they're in, so on and so forth. When you think about psychographics, you think about where they are in life. Are they starting a business? Do they own a business already and that's been profitable? Are they in a midlife crisis situation? Do they just have kids? Did they just buy a house? What is this psychological state? That's their psychographics. Following that, you want to think about their expectations. What are the expectations of your audience? How much do they know? How much do they know, and what level of detail is required in telling them what they know? You're not going to tell a group of senior engineers how to do their job if you are just starting 1 year of being an engineer. Same thing as if a child were to explain something to an adult. It just doesn't work. The expectations are different. How much does this person know versus what level of detail is required? If you're going to explain something to a child, you would omit certain details and include others that you may not add for an adult. Next, we have messages. What is your audience's style of receiving information or messages? Understanding what your audience's message style or what resonates with them more is critical to understanding your audiences. Does your audience respond better with PowerPoints, with images? Does your audience understand better with, let's say, a handout, with reading material? Messaging, it comes in multiple forms, but understanding how they receive the message and how they can receive the message in a way that they understand is critical. Lastly, your actions. What do you want them to do? Why are you standing up there and talking? You need to give people a call to action. You need to incite some sort of emotion, a feeling. Either you're there to motivate, either you're there to incite. Are you there to have people take some sort of action? What is it that you want to do? And the best way to measure how effective the action is if at the end they do what you ask them to do, which is buy a product, which is enroll in a service. That's how you know that you are on the right path and you're doing the right message to the right people when the call to action is followed through. Perfect. Understood. And you might be asking me, Ray, this is a lot to grasp. There's so much information. How do I know what people like, what people don't like? I'm not a mind reader. But guess what? You are, or at least you can be, or come close. And this is where the audience empathy map comes in. It is a way for you to put yourself in your audience shoes. And to understand what you're trying to say and deliver, you have to have some sort of empathy. You have to know what your audience wants. And with this, as you can see here, there are 4 key elements of understanding your audience. And then lastly, going to the two core elements of your speech. And then the way I like to fill this out is by starting with the C. What is your audience seeing? Then jumping into what the audience is hearing. Next, going to what they think and feel. And then lastly, what they say and do. Following your understanding of this and filling this out, you can then jump into what are their pains and their gains. What is the problems and solutions? All right, so before we jump in, I would like to give you guys a little bit of an example of a speech done by Steve Jobs during this 2005 Stanford commencement address. And watch for his delivery and what he says throughout the time that I play the video. All right, that's just a little example. You can go ahead and watch the entirety of his speech online, but just to give you an example, Steve Jobs in this video did not just jump in and say, "Hey, I'm Steve Jobs, billionaire entrepreneur that owns Apple." What he did was get on the level and put himself in the shoes of his audience and then speak to them in a way that he knows that can be relatable to them. In no other context would you hear a speech from Steve Jobs and feel that, well, are we on the same level? Are we billionaires that own a multi? Are we billionaires that own um, a global company such as Apple? No, we're not. But in a way, he made us feel something as if he was connecting with us. So this is a perfect example of Steve Jobs' use of empathy and understanding his audience when giving a commencement speech. Okay. All right, guys. And with that said, we're going to take a break here to go ahead and do a quick mind map, a quick empathy map of a graduate class of 2021. He did a commencement speech in 2025, but if you ever find yourself giving a commencement speech in 2021, this is your time to boom. So for this exercise, I will want you to go through each one of these, and we're going to start understanding the audience that we're speaking to. Ready to get started?
Yeah.
Cool. Let's put yourself in a graduate's shoes. What do you think they see?
Well, they see a lot of craziness around them. They see, like, you mean like the news?
Well, what are they currently seeing? What is it in their peer view? Where if you were a graduate before, what has changed? Think of it when you were in those shoes as well. That can really help persuade or gravitate to that audience. In the example with Steve Jobs, he was a college dropout. He was college something some of these college graduates may have considered, but managed to make it. And even though he didn't make it and he didn't go to college, he was able to be successful. But now that these students have a degree, what are they seeing? Are they seeing a future in front of them, or do they see a hindrance of COVID? What do you think that they're going through?
An unsure future.
Mm-hmm.
Like what's going to happen in next year with jobs? Are there any jobs available?
Mm-hmm.
Who wants to hire new grads? Will they be able to pay off their student loans?
Exactly. Student loans. Are they able to get a job? What are they going to do after college? Do they have to move back to their house? That's what they're seeing right now. And what are they hearing? What are they hearing from their peers? What do you think it's on social media, or what are they getting from the ether?
A lot of like sustainability stuff. I know that graduates now, they're really interested in making the world better and trying to create a future for themselves and their kids.
Mm-hmm. So you would say they're hearing a lot of these like politicians, making big promises about the future. They're hearing about how they might help with student loans or debts. So this is kind of things that they might be hearing, and from their peers, they might be echoing the same sentiments. Perfect. And next, well, let's start with what are they saying and doing at the moment?
They're definitely on social media a
Mhm.
lot. They like memes. A lot of people are posting like positivity messages too, and trying to encourage each other, but also there's some like passive aggressive sarcasm about how the world is ending at the same time.
Yeah. So what they're saying and doing is say, hey, well, global warming, the world's about to end.
Everything's fine.
Everything is fine. or trying to find some positive outlook. They that's what they're saying and doing. And then lastly, how do you think they think and feel? What is it that they are thinking but maybe not saying?
Probably that it's stressful,
Mhm.
being a recent graduate, and it's a little bit daunting, overwhelming just to go out into the world. And to be fair, it's it's a whole transition, even if you're not graduating in 2021. I can only imagine how difficult it is to graduate now, because back when I graduated from college, it was a huge transition. There's a lot of uncertainty. What path are you going to make? You're independent now. You get to make all of your own decisions and chart your path.
Perfectly. Perfect. So they're really thinking and feeling about, they're really feeling that uncertainty. You mentioned a little bit about mental health. Some students don't like discussing it or talking about it. They just feel and think life is uncertain. Therefore, what I'm doing is uncertain as well. Perfect. With that said, we can get into more of what their pains and gains are, which is the core of what you want to write your speech on. Now that we understand how they think and feel, what do they see, what are they saying and doing, and what are they hearing, we can now go into what are those pains and gains. And yes, there might be a little bit of an overlap here, absolutely. And we covered it all. It makes it our jobs a lot easier to find what are the pain points that we want to address in our speech. And that's what we can deliver a solution to those pain points. For example, we mentioned a lot of those pain points being uncertainties. You mentioned that a lot of those pain points may include mental health. A lot of those pain points may include student loans. Pain points can include policies and politicians. Those are something that affects them and hurts them. Solutions. Think about what solutions you can offer to alleviate some of these pain points. Is it more education or information about how they can get a job or what you did to get a job? Is it educational, or is it something that you can expressly relate with them and tell them, hey, this is what I went through, so they can feel a little bit more at ease? So some of the solutions may be appealing to some of their emotions or giving them some actual facts and figures and numbers or something that would help them in that transitional period. Perfect. So content. With content, this is the body, and with content, I like to think of it as the body of the speech. It is important, yes, but it is not the most important aspect of a speech. Content is the meat of it all. Content is more of the salads, the dressing and everything, but not the real meat of it all. The meat is in the delivery, which we'll get to in a minute. But first, to tackle content is what you say. What you say in terms of writing down a speech can be broken down into three parts. Some people like to write the full script, others like to do bullets, and others like to use note cards. Using a full script there's nothing wrong with that. It's okay for you to have a full script and read off the paper. A lot of beginner speakers, they do usually tend to use some sort of visual aid or an aid to help them remember what they're going to say. Is completely fine. Some more advanced speakers like to use bullet points. I usually go from one stage to another where I do write out my entire speech and then bullet things out to remember it. I don't have a full sheet, but it's okay either way. And next you have your note cards. Note cards are better than using your phone. A phone can be very distracting and you don't know what may happen with that phone. Note cards are more reliable than taking out your phone and reading through your speech. I've seen a lot of speakers use their phones and it feels more of a distraction than it is for useful for an actual speech. I saw just recently someone use an iPad and put it on a stand, and the stand kept falling down just because of how heavy the iPad was. And you don't even think about that or take that into account. But if you want to play it safe, go for no cards. All right, now we're going to get into primacy and recency. Primacy is the peak, the beginning of your speech. It is the start of of your speech and where everybody's attention is at its highest. It's at 100%. This is where you want to have maximum impact. You want to make sure that you're hitting all the points home. In the last speech you saw with Steve Jobs, he said, "I'm going to give you 3 stories about my life. That's it." Okay, well, I came here maybe thinking that he was going to just talk about himself and brag about Apple, but no, he said he's just going to give us 3 stories. That's it. Captured our attention. It let us know what he was going to say, and then that's what he was, and then he said it. He could have said anything else afterwards. What I remember was the beginning of what he was going to say about those 3 stories. That's it. Even if I don't remember his speech, I remember he said 3 stories during that commencement speech. And then lastly, we have your recency. Your recency is when you're coming to a close. It starts to peak once again. And your introduction and your conclusion are almost one and the same, where you capture the maximum attention on each leg of your speech, which is why I recommend anyone that is presenting to remember their conclusion word for word. Do not freestyle your conclusion, because it is a thing that's going to leave the lasting effect. Memorizing your speech is not, you do not have to memorize speech word for word, but when it comes to your conclusion, it's a given. All right. I did mention all of this already in context, but here is it's all written out. In the primacy, this is where you grab your attention with a story or tell a dramatic or intriguing story to help get the attention of the audience from the very first minutes. This is called your hook. You can either start with a story. You could capture attention by stating an interesting fact. You can capture attention by just jumping up and down, taking some sort of action, slamming a desk, something that has never been done before. Stating your topic, announce what you're going to talk about and why. The 3 stories with Steve Jobs. In previous statement, introduce the main highlights of your presentation, and that's it. That's what you want to do at the beginning of every single speech that you write. And then in terms of, okay, I didn't go, I should have recency in here, but just to go quickly over, when you're talking about content, you want to make sure that you have a theme. A theme is like advertising, which I've been a part of for a long, long time. A theme is something that's consistent, that can stick in someone's head. It's a redundant statement that if they forget everything else that you said, they remember this exact phrase or word or statement. For example, Obama had "Yes, we can." Martin Luther King had "I have a dream." And then, for example, Snickers, "Hungry, why wait?" And then we have Donald Trump with "Make America Great Again." This is a phrase, a word, or concept you repeat strategically throughout your speech that makes it much more memorable. Can anybody think of any other themes or phrases or words or concept that you can repeat strategically that you remember?
Frosted Flakes are more than good and great.
A jingle, perfect. Yes, exactly.
And Meow Mix.
Meow Mix. Meow Mix is a really good one too.
And that Cats Asked For by Name.
Yes, we should. Years later, we still remember those songs, those speeches, or those advertisements that continuously. This is why advertising works. They continuously bombard you with different illustrations with the same messaging until it sticks in your brain. And this is the same concept with a speech. You want to have a theme, a word, a phrase, or concept you can repeat strategically so people can remember it. I have a dream speech. You could say I have a dream in any sort of manner, even if you don't remember the speech itself. People will know that that's about Martin Luther King. You're referring to him, even though they may not even know what the entirety of the speech is. All right, perfect. Thank you very much. Now let's go into recency, which I explained too. And recency is your conclusion. Here you want to summarize your points, and then you do so by briefly summarizing what your main points were. You want to reiterate that what you just spoke about to help people grasp what was just said. Also make it inspiring. People are there to be inspired, motivated. They want you to invoke some sort of feeling, just not the feeling of drowsiness. Your audience, and then make it memorable. Does your speak make waves, or is it easy for your audience to recall? This is especially to the people out there that are giving speeches that with very heavy informational context that is intense with numbers, or let's say technical jargon. You want to make sure that the speech that you're presenting makes waves, and helps your audience recall it in the easiest way possible. Don't just spit facts and figures and numbers at people, because it's not going to be helpful when they think about what was just said. And the worst part is that if you are doing this is how you will always going to be remembered, as that person that gives just straight facts and is very boring or dull or monotone, and that's it. So you don't want to be that person. You want to make things impactful, make it inspiring, make it rememberable, and give people every single opportunity to remember what you just said. And if that's giving them PowerPoints, giving them text afterwards, or doing something in between, then do that. All right. Like I said, time and time again, people usually remember the first and last thing you say. So don't throw away your shot. All right, guys. Now that we are done with content, we're going to get into delivery. Remember all the things I've said about content? Forget about that. Not really. But content isn't as important as your delivery. You can get up on the stage and literally say whatever you feel like, or say whatever you want, but the most important variable in any speech is your delivery. I like to call it the energy meter. People want to read that energy off of you, and the way you deliver it is highly dependent on you. This is something you can 100% control. The best example I found is, just to start you guys with a quote. How many of you heard this phrase that public speaking is often judged not by what you say, but how you say it?
Yeah, I
Yeah. Some people agree with this. Some people don't really agree with this. In an age where everything is recorded, people nitpick word for word of what you're saying. So no longer is just how you say it, but what you say. But given the fact our brains are hardwired in a certain way that we interpret hand gestures, we interpret body language, we interpret appearance at a different level that we interpret context. If you want to understand a little bit more, think of it when you go to a different country and they speak a different language. And if they don't speak English, do you just scream louder at them until they understand? Or do you start making hand gestures? It's the same concept. When you speak, delivery matters. As far as the best example of delivery is this one that I found of Dwight's acceptance speech from The Office. Blood alone moves the wheels of history. Can anybody here tell me what did he just say? What was the whole speech about? And can did you grasp what he wanted to say?
I don't know.
Yes.
I don't know what he said.
He went on and talked about something completely random, but it was impactful because of how he used his body, his language to capture the audience attention. He started off very, very strong in a way that really captivated people and wanted to then made them intrigued and they wanted to know more. What is he going to say next? What is he even talking about? Why is he so excited? And why is he so either happy, excited, or energized? I want to be energized. I want to be excited. Blood alone moves the wheels of history. Yes, that is amazing. This is a difference between context and delivery. Whatever you say doesn't matter as much as how you say it. And when it comes to how you say it, we can find this delivery wheel pretty impactful. So write down these notes: is your body, your vocal variety, and your pause. These are the three parts of the delivery wheel that you really want to make sure that you understand: your body language, your vocal variety, and how you pause. Let's start with body language. Move that body, but with purpose. You want to assure that you are connecting with your audience, and the best way to do that is through eye contact. Right now, the only way I can make eye contact with you is by looking at the barrel of my camera and talking to you in this format. But when you're on stage, you want to use different types of methods like scanning the room in an M shape, or make sure that you are looking directly into the eyes of the people you're speaking to. I recently had a speech, and with that speech, many of the people were wearing masks, so I couldn't really attest to their sentiments because I couldn't see their whole face, but I could still see their eyes. I made sure to look directly into the eyes to get a more of an understanding of what I was saying actually having an impact. Next, use the stage. On a stage, a traditional stage, you will have a floor room with plenty of space or a little bit of space. Understanding where to move on the stage is key to making your points understood. If you have one point in contrast to another, moving from left to right can really help get one point across, and then the second point across by just making this simple gesture, moving from left to right. If you really want to draw people in, or as if you were telling people a secret, you will want to lean in, come closer. Or if you want to seem a little bit more relaxed, or if you want to just let your audience know something that's clearly important, but it's just very lighthearted, you will take a step back. With that said, in a virtual space, this is your stage. And the same gestures that I just made on this virtual stage, you can make on the actual stage. And then lastly, hand command. What do I do with these? I'm not Italian. I don't, some people just speak with their hands, or some people just completely don't speak with your hands. Both are equally as bad. People that use excessive hand gestures, it's very distracting. And then people that don't use any hand gestures makes you believe that they just don't care, or don't really, or are shunning away from their actual speech, showing their nervousness through their body. People can understand a lot of what you're saying simply through your body. If you're crossing your arms, you're closed. If you're holding your hands down low, for example, in this image, you're shy. When you're opening your hands like this, it's telling the audience, yes, go ahead, open your arms like this. It's telling your audience, I'm open. I'm here. I'm here to give you a great big hug. I'm right here. So hand command is essential to helping your message And that's all it is. It's helping your message get across in a very poignant manner. If you want to use hand gestures more effectively, think about it like this. Hand gestures, when you have them up like this, are your punctuation marks, your exclamation points. That's what you want to use it as. You have a point, you have this statement, you have this period, you point, and that's your period. Perfect. That's what you do with these magical tools in your arsenal. All right, now that we spoke about body language, we're going to go over the 4 P's of vocal variety, which is pitch, pace, power, and pause. Pitch, how high or low your voice is. When you think about your natural speaking voice, do you tend to go higher or lower? The best way I found to understand your vocal variety is recording yourself. Some people have the baby voice. When they talk to the baby, they talk a little high pitch. They go, where they talk to their cats or their dogs, they go, because that high pitch sound is appealing to them for some reason, but we tend to do that. So pitch is high or low your voice is. When your voice is low, you command authority. When your voice is high, it sounds friendly. Next, we have the pace, how quickly or slowly you speak. When it comes to pace, people like to speak a little fast, a little slow, but that depends on them, because when they speak fast, it's a little bit harder to understand because they want to make sure that they get all the words that they want to get out as fast as possible, because they want you to know that they know it so well that they want you to understand. And that's how you speak very fast. But then when you speak slow, like Barack Obama, where he may be a little drunk, he may take a long time. It sounds very slothy. But pacing is that's how you speak, and you want to make sure you maintain a good frequency when it comes to pitch, and then with pace, making sure that you meet that same frequency into a nice little sandwich. Well, speaking of sandwich, we have the next part of our vocal variety sandwich, which is power, how loudly or quietly you speak. When you speak loudly, people want to get away from you because you may sound like you're angry. But when you speak quietly, a little shy, maybe a little bit lower, it seems like you don't have the power, or you feel weak. But when you speak loudly, it scares people. You got to find a nice in between place. And next, pause. Pause has its own category. Pause is the thing you want to utilize the most. It is the most powerful tool you can use. Pausing in a speech helps people grasp what you just said. It lets it simmer. It gives people time to think. We all have a lag. When we're listening to something, when we're hearing a speaker, or we're doing anything in our lives, we all have a lag. We can't listen to something constantly, for example, a lecture or something like a workshop, for hours and hours on end. We need some sort of take a break, which is why we're taking a break. So everybody, what I want you to do is take a little short break and breathe. You can box breathe, like the example that's on the screen, or just breathe at your own pace. Let's all take a relaxing moment. Just grasp of what you said, everything we have done today, everything that we have to do, but we're here today together to learn a skill that we all want to be masters of. Now tell me, doesn't that feel good? To just take a breath, take a pause. Not only is a pause highly effective in your life in general, meditating is great. It's something I love to do. But pausing during a speech, it's showing your audience that you're comfortable up there. You know what you're talking about. You know what you're talking about well enough that you're letting them grasp what you just said, and then you're gonna say, and then you're gonna give them something more. You're gonna drop more gems on them. You're gonna let them grasp what you just said, and then give them a little bit more. So pausing is the greatest tool in your arsenal when giving an amazing speech. Next, I want to end with a final quote. Anywhere in the world, and whatever the style, language, there's a rhythm, and it has always been. Speech is probably the ultimate origin of all music and dance. And that said, like house music, when you start your speech, you get it bumping and it starts going, and you hear it quietly, just like music. You want to make your speech. So thank you very much for joining. Thank you everyone for attending the Intro to Public Speaking. I want to give you guys some tips on how to become better speakers. You can first start by joining Table Topics Tuesday, which is every Tuesday. It's amazing. Please feel free to join. Next, you can join a Toastmasters or a Rotary Club. Toastmasters, I have them all over the world. Rotary Clubs, similar story. Next, never turn down an opportunity to speak. Always say yes. Each time you turn down an opportunity to speak, that's when you are not a public speaker anymore. You should always say yes to an opportunity to speak. And then finally, record yourself. Write things down, record yourself. If you don't have access to video camera, just to see yourself back, fall in love with your voice, fall in love with the sound of your voice, and I promise you're going to become a better public speaker.